Conductor plaits my hair into a single white braid. Is this necessary for outside, I ask. I'm genuinely curious, since the conductors wear their hair in many styles. Some of them I can't emulate because my hair is poofy and coarse and will not hold a single curl or bear straightening. Only we have hair like this. Theirs comes in many textures. It might help, says the junior. You lot are going to stand out no matter what, but that's the normal we can make you. But the normal we can make you seem, the better. People will know if we're part of the engine, I say, straightening. Just a little in pride. His fingers slow for a moment. I don't think he notices. That's not exactly. They're more likely to think you're something else. Don't worry, though. We'll send guards along to make sure there's no trouble. They'll be unobtrusive, but they're cleanly insist that you can't be made to feel sheltered, even if you are. They're more likely to think we're something else, I repeat slowly, thoughtfully. His fingers twitch, pulling a few strands harder than necessary. I don't wince or pull away. They're more comfortable thinking of us as statues, and statues aren't supposed to feel pain. Well, it's a distant possibility, but they have to know you aren't. He sighs, oh, evil devil, evil death. It's complicated, don't worry about it. Conductors say this when they've made a mistake. I don't ping the others with it right away because we minimize communication outside of sanctioned meetings. People who are not tuners can perceive magic only in rudimentary ways. They use machines and instruments to do what is natural for us. Still, they're always monitoring us in some measure, so we cannot allow them to learn the extent to which we speak to each other, and hear them when they think we cannot. Soon I'm ready. After conferring with other conductors over the vine, mine decides to brush my face with paint and powder. It's supposed to make me look like them. It actually makes me look like someone whose white skin has been painted brown. I must look skeptical, and he shows me the mirror. My conductor sighs and complains that he is not an artist. Then he brings me to a place that I've only seen a few times before. Within the building that houses me, the downstairs foyer. Here the walls aren't white, the natural green and brown of self-repairing cellulose has been allowed to flourish unbleached. Someone has seeded the space with vining strawberries that are half in white flower, half in ripening red fruit. It's quite lovely. The 6 of us stand near the floor pool, waiting for Kalimli, trying not to notice the other personnel of the building coming and going and staring at us. 6 smaller than average, stocky people with white, puffy hair, painted faces, our lips arranged in defensively pleasant smiles. If there are guards, we do not know how to tell them from the gawkers. When Kalimli comes towards us, though, I finally notice guards. Hers move with her, not bothering to be unobtrusive. A tall brown woman and man who might have been siblings, I realize. I have seen them before trailing on her other occasions that she's come to visit. They hang back as she reaches us. Good, you're ready, she says. Then she grimaces, reaching out to touch Deshwa's cheek. Her thumb comes away with dusted face powder. Really? Deshwa looks away uncomfortable. They have never liked being pushed into any emulation of her creators. Not in clothing, not in gender, definitely not in this. It's meant to help, they mutter unhappily, perhaps, trying to convince themselves to make you more. It makes you more conspicuous, and they'll know what you are anyway. She turns and looks at one of her guards, a woman. I'm taking them to clean this dreck off. Want to help. The woman looks at her in silence. Kalimli laughs to herself. It sounds genuinely mirth-filled. She herds us into a personal needs alcove. The guards station themselves outside while she splashes water on our faces from the clean side of the latrine pool and scrubs the paint away with an absorbent cloth. She hums while she does it. Does that mean she's happy? When she takes my arm to wipe the gunk off my face, I search hers to try to understand. Her gaze sharpens when she notices. You're a thinker, she says. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. Well, we all are, I say. Allow a brief rumble of nuance. We have to be. We have to be. Exactly. You think more than you have to. Apparently a bit of brown near my hairline is especially stubborn. She wipes it off, grimaces, wipes it again, sighs, rinses the cloth, and wipes at it again. I continue searching her face. Why do you laugh at that fear? It's a stupid question. Should have asked it through the earth, not out loud. She stops wiping my face. Remoil glances at me in a bland reproach, then goes to the entrance of the alcove. I hear him asking the guard there to please ask a conductor whether we are in danger of some damage without the protection of the paint. The guard laughs and calls over her companion to relay this question, as if it's ridiculous. During the moment of distraction purchased for us by this exchange, Clenley then resumes scribbing me. Why not laugh at it, she asks. She says, they would like you better if you didn't laugh. I signal nuance, alignment, harmonic enmeshment, compliance, consolation, mitigation. If she wants to be liked. Maybe I don't want to be liked, she shrugs, turning to rinse the cloth again. You could be. You're like them. Not enough. More than me. This is obvious. They're kind of beautiful. They're kind of normal, if you tried. She laughs at me too. It isn't cruel. I know it instinctively. It's pitying, but underneath the laugh, her presence is settling as still and pent as a pressurized stone in the instant before it becomes something else. Anger again. Not at me, but triggering by my words nonetheless. I always seem to make her angry. They're afraid because we exist, she says. There's nothing we did to provoke their fear other than exist. There's nothing we can do to earn their approval except to stop existing. So we can either die like they want or laugh at their cowardice and go on with our lives. I think at first that I don't understand everything that she has told me, but I do, don't I? There were 16 of us once. Now we are 6. Now we are but 6. The others questioned and were decommissioned for it, obeyed without question, and we're just decommissioned for it, bargained, gave up, helped, despaired. We have tried everything, done all they ask and more, and yet now there are only 6 of us left. That means we're better than the others were, I tell myself, scowling, smarter than more, adaptable, more skilled. This is matters, does it not? We are components of the great machine, the pinnacle of Solanogist-Hein biomagistry. Some of us had to be removed from the machine because of flaws. Tuttle was not flawed, Rema snaps like a slip-strike fault. I blink and glance at him. He's back in the alcove waiting over near Bimniwa and Salwa. They've all used the fountain to strip off their own paint, while Clinley worked on me in Gewa and Dashwa. The guards, Grimoire distracted, are just outside, still chuckling to themselves over what he said to them. He's glaring at me. When I frown, he repeats, Tuttle was not flawed. I set my jaw. If Tuttle was not flawed, then that means he was decommissioned for no reason at all. Yes, Remra, who rarely looks pleased on a good day, is now curled his lip in disgust. At me, I'm so shocked by this that I forget to pretend indifference. That is precisely her point. It doesn't matter what we do. The problem is them. It doesn't matter what we do. The problem is them. Why am I clean? Cleanly cups my face up in her hands. Do you know the word legacy? I've heard of it and guessed its meaning from context. It's difficult to pull my thoughts back on track after Ramla's angry rejoinder. He and I have never liked one another. But I shake my head and focus on what Clenley has asked me. A legacy is something obsolete, but which you cannot get rid of entirely. Something no longer wanted, but still needed. She grimaces Grimness smiles first at me and then at Remla. She has heard everything he said to me. That will do. Remember that word today. Then she gets to her feet. The three of us stare at her. She's not only taller and browner, but she moves forward. But she moves more, breathes more, is more. We worship what she is. We fear what she will make of us. Come, she says, and we follow her out into the world. 2613. A massive underwater volcano erupted in the Zar Straits between the Ardanic polar waste and the stillness. Sly's leaders announced, previously unknown to be in origin, apparently quelled the volcano, although she was able to escape the tsunami that it caused. Skies in the Antarctic darkened for months, but cleared just before a season could be officially declared. In the immediate aftermath of the tsunami, Scylla's leader's husband, the comhead at the time of the eruption, deposed by the emergency election, attempted to defend their 1-year-old child from a mob of survivors and was killed. Cause disputed. Some witnesses say the mob stoned him. Others say that the former comhead was strangled by a guardian. Guardian took the orphaned infant to Warren. You are remembered. The attack comes like clockwork near dawn. Everyone's ready for it. The camp is about a third of the way into the stone forest, which is as far as Kestrine was able to get before full darkness made further progress treacherous. The group should be able to get all the way through the forest before sunset the next day, assuming everyone lives through the night. Restlessly you prowl the camp, and you are not the only one to do so. The hunters are supposed to be all sleeping, since during the day they act as scouts, as well as arranging a field to forage and catch a game. You see quite a few of them awake, too. The Strongbacks are supposed to be sleeping in shifts, but all of them are up, as are a good number of the other casts. You spot Hajarka sitting atop a pile of baggage, her head down and eyes shut, but otherwise her legs are braced for a quick lunge, and there's a glass knife in each hand. Her fingers haven't loosened with sleep. It's a stupid time to attack, given all this, but there isn't a better one. So apparently your assailants decided to work with what they've got. You're the first to suss it, and you're pivoting on the ball of one foot and shouting a warning even as you narrow your perception and drop into the space of mind from which you can command volcanoes. A fulcrum deep and strong has been rooted in the earth nearby. You follow it to the midpoint of its potential torus, the center of the circle like a hawk sighting prey. Right side of the road, 20 feet into the stone forest, out of line of sight amid the winds and drooping greenery, Yika. She appears at once from wherever she was sitting amid the tents. Yeah, felt it. Not active yet. By this you mean the torus hasn't begun to draw heat or movement from the ambient. But that fulcrum is deep as a taproot. There's not much seismic potential gathered in this region, and indeed much of the pressure on the lower level strata has been absorbed by the creation of the stone forest. Still, there's always a heat if you go deep enough, and this is deep, solid, fulcrum, precise. We don't have to fight, Ika yells suddenly into the forest. You start, though you shouldn't. You're shocked that she was serious, though you really should know better by now. She stalks forward, body trot, knees bent as if she's about to sprint into the forest, hands held out before her and fingertips wiggling. It's easier now to reach for magic, though you still focus on the stump of your own arm to begin out of habit. It will never feel natural for you to use this instead of origami, but at least your perception shifts quickly. Yika's way ahead of you. Wavelets and arcs of silver dance along the ground around her, mostly in front of her, spreading and flickering as she draws them up from the ground and makes them hers. What little vegetation you can sense in the stone forest makes it easier. The seedling vines and the light-starved moss act like wires, channeling and aligning the silver into patterns that make sense, are predictable, are searching. Ah, you tense in the same moment that Ika does. Yes, there. Above the deep-rooted fulcrum at the center of a torus that has not yet begun to spin, crouches a body etched out in silver. For the first time in comparison, you notice that an origin's silver is both brighter and less complex than that of the plants and insects around it. The same amount of that word implies, if not capacity, or potential or aliveness, but not the same design. This origin silver is concentrated into a relative few bright lines that all align in similar directions. They don't flicker, and neither does his torus. You guessed that, but it feels right, is listening. Ika, another outline of presence, concentrated silver, nods in satisfaction. She climbs up on top of some of the wagon cargo, so her voice will carry better. Anika Roga, Kastrima, she calls. You guess that she points at you. She's a Roga too, so's he, Temo. So are those kids over there. We don't kill Rogas here, she pauses. You hungry? You've got a little to spare. You don't need to try to take it. The fulcrum doesn't budge. Something else does, though. From the other side of the stone forest, a thin, attenuated agglomerations of silver suddenly blur into chaotic movement and come charging towards you. Other raiders. Evil Earth. You were also focused on the Roga that you didn't even notice the ones behind you. You hear them now, though. Voices rising, cursing, feet pounding on ashy sand. Strongbacks near the barrier of the sticks on the side cry warning. They're attacking, you call. No shit, Ika snaps, drawing a glass knife. You retreat to within the tent circle, acutely aware of your own vulnerability in a way that's strange and deeply unpleasant. It's worse because you can still sense, and because your instincts prompt you to respond when you see a child, when you see where you could help. A cluster of attackers come at a part of the perimeter that's light on stakes and defenders, and you open your eyes so you can actually see them trying to fight in their own way. They're typical comless raiders, filthy, emaciated, dressed in an ash-fading combination of rags and newer pilfered clothing. You could take it all 6.5 a breath with a single person indoors. But you can also feel how aligned you are. Nika's silver is concentrated like that. The other Rogas you've observed, but hers is still layered, jagged, a little jittery. It flows every which way within her as she jumps down from the cargo wagon and shouts for people to help the sparse. Stromback's near that cluster of raiders running to help herself. Your magic flows with smooth clarity, every line matching perfectly in direction, and flow to every other line. You don't even know how to change it back to the way it was, if that's possible. And you know instinctively that using the silver when you like this will pack every particle of your body together as neatly as a mason lays a wall of bricks. You'll be stoned the same way. So you fight your instincts and hide as much as that rankless. There are others here, crouching amid the central circle of tents, the calm, smaller children, its bare handful of elders. One woman, so pregnant she can't move with any real flexibility, even though she's got a loaded crossbow in her hands, and 2 knife-wielding breeders who've obviously been charged with defending her and the children. When you poke your head up to observe the fighting, you catch a glimpse of something stunning. Daniel, having appropriated one of the spear-weighted little sticks that form from the fence, is using it to carve a bloody swath through the raiders. She's phenomenal, spinning and stabbing and blocking and stabbing again, twirling the stick in between attacks as if she's fought comless 1,000,000 times. That's not just being an experienced calmless. That's not just being an experienced strongback. There's nothing else. She's just too good, but it follows, doesn't it? Not like Rhaenys made her the general of their army for her charm. It isn't much of a fight in the end. 20 or 30 scrawny calmless against trained, fed, prepared, calm, warm members. This is why calms survive season, and why longer-term calmlessness is a death sentence. This lot was probably desperate. There can't have been much traffic along the road in the past few months. What were they thinking? Their origin, you realize. That's who they expected to win this fight for them, but he's still not moving, organically or physically. You get up walking past the lingering knots of fighting, self-consciously adjusting your mask. You step off the road and slip through the perimeter stakes, moving into the deeper darkness of the stone forest. The firelight of the camp leaves you night blind, so you stop a moment to allow your eyes to adjust. No telling what kinds of traps the calmless have left there. Here, you shouldn't be doing this alone. Again, you're surprised, though, because between one blink and the next, you suddenly begin to see in silver insects, leafed litter, spiderweb, even the rocks, all of it now flickers in the wild, veined patterns, their cells, particulates etched out by the lattice that connects them, and people. You stop as you make them out, well camouflaged against the silver broom of the forest. The Roga is still where he's been, a brighter etching against more delicate lines, but there are also two small shapes crouched on a cavelet about 20 feet further into the forest. Two other bodies somehow high overhead atop the jagged, curving rocks of the forest. Lookouts, maybe? None of them move much. Can't tell if they've seen you or they're watching the battle somehow. You're frozen, startled by the sudden shift in your perception. Is this some byproduct of learning to see the silver in yourself and the obelisks? Maybe once you can do that, you see it everywhere, or maybe you're just hallucinating all of it now, like an after image against your eyelids. After all, Alabaster never mentioned being able to see like this. But then when did Alabaster ever try to be a good teacher? You group forward for a bit, hand out in front of you in case it is some kind of illusion. But if so, it's at least an accurate one. Well, it's strange to put your foot down on a lattice of silver. After a while, you get used to it. The Origin's distinctive lattice and that still-head Taurus aren't far, but he's somewhere higher up than the ground, maybe 10 feet above where you stand. This is explained somewhat. When the ground abruptly slopes upward and your hand touches stone, your regular vision has adapted enough that you can see there's a pillar here, crooked and probably climbable, at least by someone who's got more than one arm. So you stop at the foot of it and say hello. And say hey. No response. You become aware of breathing, quick, shallow, pent, like someone who's trying not to be heard breathing. Hey. Squinting in the dark, you finally make out some kind of structure of stacked branches and old boards and debris. A blind, maybe? From up there in the blind, it must be possible to see the road. Sight doesn't matter for the average Origin. Untrained ones can't detect their power at all. A fulcrum-trained Origin, though, needs a line of sight to be able to distinguish between freezing useful supplies or just freezing the people defending same. Something shifts in the blind above you. Has there been a catch in the breathing? You try to think of something to say, but all that's in your head is a question. What's a fulcrum-trained Origin doing among the calmless? Must have been out on an assignment when the rifting occurred. Would have had a guardian, or he'd be dead. So that means a fifth finger or higher, or maybe a 3 or 4 finger, who's lost their higher-ranked partner. You envision yourself, if you'd been on the road to Elia when the rifting struck, knowing your guardian might come for you, but gambling that he might instead write you off for dead. No. That ends the imagining right there. Shaffa would have come for you. Shaffa did come for you. But that was between seasons. Guardians supposedly do not join comms when seasons come, which means they die, and in fact, the only Guardian you've seen since the rifting was that one with Daniel in the Rennis army. She died in the boil bug storm that you invoked, and you're glad of it, since she was one of the bear-skin killers. And there's more than the usual wrong with that kind. Either way, here's another ex-black jacket out here alone, and maybe afraid, and maybe hair triggered to kill. And you know what that's like, don't you? But this one hasn't attacked yet. You have to find some way to make a connection. I remember, you say. It's soft, a murmur, like you don't want to hear even yourself. I remember the crucibles, the instructors killing us to save us. Did they make you have children too? Corundum. Your thoughts jerk away from the memories. Did they? Shit. The hand that Shaffa once broke, your right hand is somewhere in whatever passes for Hoa's belly. You still feel it though, the phantom ache across phantom bones. I know they broke you, your hand, all of us. They broke us so they could. You hear very clearly a soft, horrified inhalation from within the blind. The Taurus whips into a blurring, blistering spin and explodes outward. You're so close that it almost catches you. That gasp was enough warning, though, and so you've braced yourself organically, even if you couldn't do it physically. Physically, you flinch, and it's too much for your precarious one-armed balance. You fall backward, landing hard on your ass, but you've been drilled since childhood in how to retain control on one level, even as you lose it in another. So in the same instance you flex your Sesapine, simply slap his fulcrum out of the earth, inverting it. You're much stronger. It's easy. You react magically to grabbing those whipping tendrils of silver that the Taurus has stirred, and belatedly you realize orogeny affects magic, but it isn't magic itself. In fact, the magic flinches away from it, and that's why you can't work high-level orogeny without negatively impacting your ability to deploy magic. How nice to finally understand. Regardless, you tamp the wild threads of magic back down and quell everything at once, so that nothing worse than a rhyme. A forest dust to your body. It's cold, but only on your skin. You'll live, then you'll let go, and all the orogeny and magic snaps away from you like a stretched rubber band. Everything in you seems to twang in response and resonance, and oh no. You feel the amplitude of the resonance rise as your cells begin to align and compress into stone. You can't stop it. You can, however, direct it. In the instance that you have, you decide which body part you can afford to lose. Hair. No, too many strands, too much of it, too distant from the live follicles, so you can't do it, but it'll take too long, and half your scalp will be stone by the time you're done. Toes. You need to be able to walk. Fingers. You've only got one hand. You need to keep intact as long as you can. Breasts. Well, you're not planning on having more children anyway. It's enough to channel the resonance, the stoning, into just one. Have to make it through the glands under the armpit, but you manage to keep it above the muscle layer that might keep the damage from impairing your movement and breathing. You pick the left breast to offset your missing right arm. The right breast is the one you always liked better anyway, prettier, and then you lie there when it's done, still alive, hyper aware of the extra weight on your chest, too shocked to mourn, yet. Then you're pushing yourself up, awkwardly grimacing, as the person in the blind utters a nervous little chuckle and says, "Oh, Rust, oh, Earth. Damia, is that you? Is it really you? Sorry about the Taurus, I was just... You don't know what it's like. It's been... You can't believe... Do you know what they did to Crack?" Arquette says to your memory. Maxie, says your mouth. It's Maxie. Maxie is half the man he used to be physically anyway. He's got no legs below the thighs, one eye, or rather only one that works. The left one is clouded with damage, and it doesn't quite track with the other. The left side of his head, he's got almost nothing left of that lovely blonde ash blonde that you remember. It's just a knife, hacked, bottle brush. It is a mess of pinkish scars, amid which you think the ear is healed shut. The scars have seamed his forehead and skin cheek, and pull his mouth a little out of true on that side.